you just a touch on where we left off, and then I take you deeper into the work. I was thinking of, there's a lot of directions to go with this kind of inquiry, and I have a whole piece on relationships that I was thinking of sharing with you, but in order to do that, I needed to cover two other parts. And I didn't want you to miss this piece because that you would have been in deeper water without these two tools. So if we meet again, or if I can figure out a way to, make more teaching available to you in the future, I would like to share more with you on relationships and how parts work applies in our relationships, because it's so powerful, and it's a paradigm shift for couples and parents and teenagers and bosses and employees and colleagues. But you can imagine how this would play out when there's there's a dyad. So for today, I'm going to start out, as I said, with just a little bit of review. And then I'm going to hear from people and see where the work settled in you, with you, and for you. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Bobby. Is that Robbie or Bobby? You're muted.
Yes, Robbie's fine. Thank you.
Bobby? Okay.
Yeah.
You can hear me okay? Two of you?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so when we encounter the multiplicity of the self, we start to look at the complexity of the psyche and the vastness of who we are in terms of our identity. Like, who are we, right? And we've all felt divided before in our lives. We've all felt pushed and pulled and torn. It's in our language, right? It's in English. Part of me wants to do this, another part of me. And so this parts work is inherently organic to our language, which teaches us, because language always informs a culture about who it is, who we are as a people. You can always look at the language. Like the Eskimos have 26 words for snow, right? And so there's always a lot of clues in our language as to who we are, what our norms and mores and makeup are. So we think about locating a part of us that's present, okay? Usually a part of us that's present, that's extreme, or that's pushing, or that wants to be heard, is easier to find because it's right there. It's right there, okay? Now, where is it? Well, I did an experiment last night because I was taught to locate parts somatically, anatomically. But thinking about your education here, your spiritual education, I put on the template of the 7 chakras, and I asked myself to help me reveal the location of this part in which chakra are you in. And all of a sudden, my system lit up in 7 instead of my biology. So I want to offer this to you because it's here. It's another parallel. If you walk into your MD's office, you'll see the biology of the chest or the organs or the arm, and you'll see all the pathways of blood vessels and organs. But if you walk into your acupuncturist's office, you'll see the meridians, right? You'll see the highways of the energy system, right? And they're not mentioning the anatomy as much as they are the meridians. And in this tradition, we have the chakras, which are energy centers. And I noticed, and this is only 24 hours old, this insight, that when you look for a part and you ask, which chakra are you in? You may notice, as I did, that it self-organizes. It self-organizes. And so a manager part, right, can easily be in one of the 7 chakras. And if you ask, which chakra are you in, as was the case for me, you may find that it reveals itself to you at once. Which gives us more information, right? It's more information because the more we study the chakras, the more we understand the nature of those energy centers. So in my meditation last night, I had a part up for me, and this is how I begin. I'll sit and I'll still myself, follow my breathing, 5 minutes, and direct my attention inward. And there was something that I was working through, which is my relationship with my son. There's a strained connection there. And I was curious about it. I wanted to understand more about it. And so I directed my attention inward. I followed my breathing. And I asked myself, which chakra is this part in that is in pain, that suffers from the connection with my son? And it was my throat chakra. And as soon as I located that in my throat chakra, then all this download of information started to come to me about expression, about his expression, about his voice, first my voice, about my inhibition to be too directive with him, and of my hope that I don't become my father's voice in my house with him. And it was very informative and deeply meaningful. And I just stayed with that. And then from there on, I took myself through the protocol, which I'll review with you. So if I didn't have a part that was up, if I had just this spirit of exploration and I wanted to say, I wonder why I work so hard and I don't play tennis as much anymore. And I don't take my guitar out. I wonder why I am so busy, because it's seemingly me that takes these sessions, these appointments. I make the appointments, right? So I wonder where my capacity to keep some more balance in my schedule around fun went. So I might not be heavy with that, but I might just know that this is something I'd like to work on today. So the same beginning is I would still myself and follow my breathing. And I would ask, where's the part of me that gives my time away so freely? Where is that part of me? Which chakra is that part of me located in? And I would sit. And I would wait for the answer. And so my answer now comes to my solar plexus. And so there's something directed in my solar plexus that's indicating that I'm being pushed or pulled in the direction of serving other people. But as you know from this work, the manager is a little extreme in this case, right? Because I'm telling you, this is too much. I don't have any time to play tennis. And so I'm asking this part of me, I'm asking this part of me, what do you worry about? What is it that is on your mind? What is it that you're concerned with? What are your fears and concerns? And I sit with that part, and it starts to reveal itself to me. It starts to tell me its fears and concerns. And if it's a longer inquiry, I'll have a pad next to me, and I'll open my eyes a little bit, and I'll start jotting down. Or if I feel like I can hold this much, which often I can, I'll just stay quiet and I'll just learn, and I'll just listen to that part. Okay? After a moment or two, I'll ask myself, how do I feel towards this part? How do I, as Harrison, feel towards this part? If the answers come up as impatient, pissed off because it's keeping me from fun, I wish that I had more control over it, any of those answers come up, then I ask that part that feels averse to this part that gives away my time. I ask that part to unblend, be more of a witness, dial it down, give me some space, back up and give me some space, because I'm trying to work with the part of me that gives my time away so much. So sometimes I picture it like a kid pulling on my sleeve, or an energy that's pulling me in another direction, or a voice that's berating the other part of me. Whatever it is, I'll ask it to dial down, step back, and be more like a witness. And then I turn my attention back towards the original inquiry question. Like, tell me about yourself, okay? So in this way, I'm giving this part of me, right, the part of me that gives my time away, I'm giving it a validation. I'm giving it my attention. I'm giving it my interest, and most of all, I'm giving it my curiosity. Because curiosity, as I mentioned to you last time, in my case, in my opinion, is one of the biggest inroads to personal freedom, to inner freedom, curiosity. Because it's the opposite of judgment. It's a soft light instead of a hardness, instead of a closed door, instead of a mind that's made up. And so with the spirit of curiosity, I turn towards this part of me that gives my time away. And I say things like, hey, what would be at stake for you? This is one of my favorite questions. What would be at stake for you if you didn't give your time away to these clients? What would happen? And then the part starts to talk to me about the risks. It's risk assessment, right? Well, you wouldn't make as much money, or you would lose status, or you would lose ground, or your clients might go elsewhere, or all sorts of stuff could happen. And I said, tell me more. And I'm just listening, and I'm validating. Now, if the answers to this part of me, if those answers provoke another part of me, like, that's ridiculous. So here comes that's ridiculous. Okay? So what do I do with that's ridiculous? Do I validate it and say, yeah, it is? No. If I do that, then what happens to giving time away? Giving time away starts to shut down. And so now I'm losing rapport with a part of myself that I wanted to learn about. And so my work is twofold in this moment. My work is to keep a watchful eye on the critical nature of the peripheral parts of my mind, who will do their best to derail, sabotage, impose themselves, block me, slow me down. They could make me hungry, just where I'm getting somewhere. I could start to get hungry. I say, you know what? I'll be right back. I just gotta get a snack. that can happen. I could say, I've meditated long enough. It's been like 15 minutes. It's plenty. I could have that part come up, right? All sorts of tricky ways of taking me off of my mark. And the more I'm aware, the more I know myself, right? I know my parts. I have a part of me that gets hungry when things are getting, right? So I know you, right? I call that want to eat. So want to eat comes up, shows up. What do? I don't shame want to eat. I simply say, do me a favor and dial it down and step back. And just sit. And if you can't go far, if you don't want to go too far away, you just sit here. But I'm working, as you can see. I'm working with give time away. I can get back to you, but for now, I'm working with give time away. Okay? And there it is. That's the twofold work of this kind of inner exploration. And I think at that point, I could say, can you unblend from me so that I can work easier with you, right? Can you unblend with me, from me? Maybe just a few feet out in front so that I can work with you. And as it starts to unblend, now I start to get images. Give time away. And give time away might look like a clock, but it doesn't have to look like a clock. It could look like an empty wallet. It could look like a car driving away from my house. It could look like any of those things. And I don't have to be an artist, but on the same page, I'll just sketch a little something that somehow replicates, illustrates this feeling, this energy. And don't overlook this part, because this is called externalization, right? So when we externalize a part of ourselves, we can see it much clearer with a certain sense of neutrality, with a certain objectiveness that we were not able to do before. You could take externalization very far. There's whole and beautiful practices, like a sand tray, right? If I had a sand tray set up here, and sand trays are not just for kids. It sounds like it is, but it's not just for kids. Sand tray is a tray with sand in it, but it has objects in it. And I could say to somebody who hates their job and wants to quit, but is afraid to quit because they have all these bills to pay, but they're demoralized at work because, here we go with the narrative. So we'll turn that narrative into parts. And then we externalize the parts. We say, okay, is that your boss? Okay. And what is this? This is your anger towards, okay, I got it. And your fear of quitting is what? Where's that? Oh, okay, that's the steep water. Nice. Okay, so we have a blue patch. We have a red piece over here, which is the anger. And then we have this silver button here, which is your boss. Is there more? And so in this way, I'm starting to help this person externalize, right, parts of their narrative. Once we can see the externalization, we can study it. We can look at it. The cool thing about sand tray is that it's 3D. So I like to work with totems. You know, I'll take a pocket knife. I'll take scissors or thread, or sometimes I'll just work with whatever's around me. You know, this could be called let's get to the bottom of it. So this will be my get to the bottom of it. Set it there. And then I'll have fear, and I'll make fear maybe the clock. I'll have the clock and get to the bottom of it. And I'll just imbue these totems with my thoughts and feelings. And now they become symbolic, right? And once you have a symbol, you're working with an object that has a lot of power inside of it, a whole narrative inside of it that we don't have to keep going over and going over and going over. So every time I see the clock or the little watch, I say, okay, that's my fear of running out of energy, running out of time. It's my fatigue. It's my nervousness about, and like that. And it's all done just with the power of symbol. So the more you can weave symbol into your self-inquiry process, the more use you can make of the ancient tradition, right, of totems, right? All right. So at this point, we're unblended. I know who my part is. I've written it down. I have a little image of it. I've made some rapport with my part. Give time away. I understand it. I validated it. That makes sense to me. Okay. Now, I could go a number of ways, but depending upon the power of the manager, that might be as far as you can go. And that's about as far as I took you last time, I believe. Did we do updates? We didn't do updates. Okay. So the next step could be a lot of different directions, but Michael, could I get a glass of water? Anything? I'm sorry, I didn't bring my water. Thank you. So, so an update might be my next move. So what is an update? This manager that I've recognized in myself, just a clock with the word give in it. That's me giving my time away freely. And so that's my little symbol. Thanks, man. Sure. Appreciate it. Can you guys online see that? Probably not, right?
Well, we have it in our notes actually, so we got, so I have a picture of it anyway, but I can start putting the symbols on it. So yeah, thank you.
All right. So it's basically just a clock with 12, 6, 3, and 9 with the word give in the middle of it. And that, to me, represents the part of my energetic being, my nature, my inclination, my habit of putting other people before me, which sounds like a good thing, doesn't it? That sounds like, oh, that's a good thing. But last time we talked about the shadow sides, right? So what is the shadow side of service? This part, for me, is the shadow side of service. It's like, well, there's no time left for me to play music or tennis. So that's the shadow side of service for me. So that's a manager, right? That's under the obligation or the duty or the fear or the need to control, right? To the point where it governs my behavior. Governs my behavior. So now for the update. So while I have my manager, and my manager's out there, right? He's right over there. He's like 6 feet in front of me. Like an energetic understanding, right? He's over there. And I check in all the time. I ask myself 5 times, how do I feel towards my manager? Because anger could slip in, entitlement could slip in, allies for this manager could slip in, shame could slip in. So any of those parts slip in, that's called parts to parts. Right? If you have 2 kids, a 3-year-old and a 12-year-old, and the 3-year-old is acting out, you don't want to send the 12-year-old in to help the 3-year-old move through her issue, right? You want to go in there, right? The mom, right? So that's self. So that's why we want self to parts, not parts to parts. Does that make sense? So at this point, when I ask myself, how do I feel towards give time away? And I say, well, I'm curious. I'm compassionate towards this part of me because I understand now. I've listened to it, and apparently it wants to help. All parts want to help us. That's the nature of parts. They want to help us. They want to serve you. But when they go too far, when a part goes too far, we call it extreme or too managerial. That's when we address it in this work, right? So at this point, I update it. So I say, how old are you? How old are you? And I say it like that. I say it with love in my heart. I say, hey, how old are you? And I wait for the answer. So if I do it now, so my give time away is 9 years old. So he's 9. So something happened in my 9th year that allowed a part of me to manifest in a way to protect me. I don't have to guess at the stuff. All I have to do is ask the part. I could ask you more questions, but right now I'm doing an update. Question?
I have a question about asking it how old it is.
Yes.
You said it was 9 years old. Does
Right.
that mean it manifested 9 years ago, or
No.
when you were 9 years
When I was 9.
old? Okay,
Yes. Good question. Same question?
right, because I think the last time we asked it how old it was and how long it's been doing its job,
Yes.
I got 2 different answers for those.
From you? From your part? Yeah. Yeah. So that's cool because parts don't always tell the truth the first time. Parts can be misunderstood. Parts can, like you had a part that was a certain age, then it was doing its job longer than its initial age that it stated.
Yeah,
Yeah. So what was the first age that it gave you?
well, when I asked how old it was, it said 15 years old.
Okay.
I was thinking 15 years ago.
Right, right.
And when I asked it how long it's been doing its job, it was like, I don't know, I did the math and I ended up being 7.
Yeah.
So I would have been 7.
Yes. Yeah. So if you look at the through line of the energetic component from the 7-year-old to the 15-year-old, there's a through line there where she's still dealing with the same need to protect herself or you from whatever was at hand, right? So the first time she told you how old she was when she was 15. But then when you asked her how long have you been doing this, she confessed deeper. And her confession revealed her truer age, which was a younger age. Parts are usually, I don't want to say this, but I'll say it anyway. Parts are usually formed in our single-digit years. There can be exceptions all over the place. That's why I said usually, and that's why I said I don't want to say this. But you're gonna see patterns, right? We look for patterns and trends, and one of the overwhelming patterns is that parts are birthed in your single-digit years. Okay. So for the update, so we find out how old Kelly's part is. It's what was the second age?
7.
7. So now she's 7. Now you have a 7-year-old energy that you're connecting with internally. How do you talk to a 7-year-old? Does anybody in this room have a 7-year-old at home? One person knows how to talk to a 7-year-old in this room comfortably. And even she has trouble, right? So the rest of us are going to be a little befuddled, right? That my point is that, sorry, do either of you have a 7-year-old at home? No, maybe in your
No.
life.
I had, my daughter's 14 now.
Yeah, she's 14. So you remember when she was 7?
My kids are much older.
All right, all right.
Talking
So
to a 7-year-old is impossible because they talk a lot.
they talk a lot. There you go. So you have the reference. You know, parents have references of ages, and they remember who their kids were at 7. So you're dealing with a 7-year-old energy, Kelly, and the way that you can remember how to talk to a 7-year-old, you know, like if I talk to my daughter who's 14, the way I talk to you guys, I'm not going to get the same connection, rapport, easiness, and vulnerability, right? I need to speak to her in a way that suits her understanding of the world and me and who we are together. And so that's called code switching. You don't talk to every age group the same way, right? You understand this is a child. It's not just vocabulary. It's also, you know, who you are when you're listening and when you're talking. You notice your voice will change when you're talking to a child or teenager. So now I know she's 7. Now I'm going to tell her how old Kelly's going to tell her how old Kelly is. And she's going to tell her a little bit about her life. And while Kelly's telling the 7-year-old a little bit about her life, she's watching the 7-year-old's reaction. She's watching her. You know? She's listening, she's looking at her, because you're learning about who this other part is while you're revealing yourself. So this is like in computer programming, this would be the tantamount to a patch, right? When Microsoft sends out a patch, it's an update. You have to update your computer or it doesn't read the software properly anymore, right? I can't get this new podcast to work. And my daughter says, oh, you have to update that. You're way behind. And I'm like, oh, who would have known? And so updating your software reminds that part of you how old you've become, who you are now in the world. It reminds them, teaches them, astonishes them sometimes. You know, I have a 13-year-old who laughs and runs away when I tell him how old I am. Doesn't want to hear it. Will not hear it. Nonetheless, I'm still going to stand there and say, I am. And let me tell you, you know, about my car and my job. And he's like, no way. And I'm like talking to him, telling him, yeah, this is true. This is all true. You know, I am an older, more mature version of you. Okay? And I just wanted you to know that. Okay, now we can stop there. If that's the rapport that we've reached and that's where we want to stop, we can stop there. That's a lot of work that you've just done on yourself. You've just made friends, unblended from, updated, and created a rapport with a part of you that was dominating you. That's amazing. That's a lot of good work you just did. Okay? Why don't people change? What's so hard about changing your behavior? Why is there thousands of books on how to change? Why are seminars, self-help seminars, packed? Why is it so hard to change? If you can see that I want to stop doing this, and you have enough leverage to tell yourself, I want to stop doing this, why don't people change?
Fear and energy takes a lot of energy, and there's a lot of fear involved.
Yes, it takes a lot of energy to change. And you're absolutely right. Fear, in this case, and that leads exactly where we're going, Michael. Because it's not just the manager that you're having to deal with, right? It's not just the manager. It's an exile. What is an exile? When a part of us shows up as a manager in tandem with a manager is an emotionally exiled part of yourself. Part of yourself that you've stuffed down, pushed away, put down, who's not welcome, afraid, fragile. The manager is just doing her job, trying to protect the exile. Doesn't really want even to bring up the exile. Rather avoid it if it could. Okay? Last time, somebody talked about a manager of perfectionism.
That was me.
That was you?
Yeah.
Okay. So perfectionism, without going directly into it, but so perfectionism is a manager, right? It's trying to manage other people's perceptions. It's trying to manage your own behavior, trying to get it all right. So when you meet that part, you unblend from that part, friends with that part, you update that part. You could stop there because that's very helpful. But the perfectionism may continue, right? May continue, may give you a little, it may give you a little space, but it also most likely will continue until you reach the exile, the part that that manager is protecting. So every one of you who's able to locate a manager in yourselves can also either ask yourself, who are you protecting? What part of me are you protecting? Or you can just ask the part. You can always ask the part. What part are you protecting? Okay. What part are you protecting? Now, I'll make something up. So the perfectionist is protecting the part that doesn't want to be embarrassed. Okay, the part that is, as Michael said, afraid. Okay. I'm going to read to you, I found some literature on this that I can share with you. I'm just going to read to you. If anybody wants to turn your voice memo on your cell phones. Oh, Liz is recording it?
It's all recorded.
Okay.
We'll put it up on the.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to read to you just a little bit, teach you a little bit about the roles here. Okay. So the motto of the manager is never again. Never again. I'm not going to let that happen again. Okay. The manager's primary parts keep the person feeling secure by proactively controlling people, events, and other parts. They help manage day-to-day life and are socially adaptive, helping the person fit in and be valued. Managers bear huge burdens of responsibility for keeping the person together and fear that relinquishing control will lead to worse outcomes. Managers protect against anything that leads to vulnerability, pain, or instability. In all cases, managers are committed to preventing the activation of exile parts pain. Okay. You're always protecting the exile. Managers are often risk averse, concerned with safety, concerned about being overwhelmed emotionally. Primary voices or thoughts we hear most often and sometimes over-identify with as if they are self. Managers try to control everyone and everything, sometimes by being pleasing. That's a kind of a manager. Monitoring how we come across to others. Right? Trying to make sense of the world with interpretations and by creating the narratives we live by. Repeating stories about how life should be lived according to our family, origin, school, culture, and so on. Okay. Now, the exiles are parts that have been shut away for their own protection and or to keep their emotions, memories, beliefs, and sensations from flooding the system. These parts have been rejected, devalued, marginalized, or traumatized and hold the deepest scars from those events. Exiles are young and childlike, often frozen in scenes, S-C-E-N-E-S, in which they have experienced injury and hiding out of self-protection. Hiding out of self-protection. Because they are cut off internally, they are doubly abandoned and become desperate to be heard and cared for. Their presence leaves the person feeling exposed, vulnerable, something the protectors have experienced as destabilizing. And what is their motto? Don't forget about me. That's the motto of the exile. Don't forget about me. Okay. So you see the relationship here between management and exile? Okay. Now, we know we have these managers that try to protect the exile. What happens when the manager can't protect the exile? Extreme behavior kicks in. Something more extreme. That's called a firefighter. A firefighter has a motto of when all else fails. When all else fails. I'll give you an example of a firefighter that I have, that I know him fairly well. And it's not an extreme firefighter, but it does kick in when management can't do its job. Okay, I was buying a motorcycle a couple of months ago, and the salesman was telling me about an extended warranty that goes along. And it's very expensive. And it starts, and they have all these names for like platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. And he was talking to me in a kind of schmaltzy, salesman manipulating voice that my management got up. My manager part said, okay, this is that again. We know this. We know this kind of guy. We know this slippery scene that we're in. We don't like this. But try to work it out. Try to work it out with him. You know, my daughter's sitting next to me. Another guy is sitting next to him. And he's cranking up the pressure on me to spend more. And it was hard enough for me to buy the motorcycle, just that alone. And now I'm faced with this kind of pressure. And so after 10 minutes, my firefighter said to me, okay, I'm going to take care of this. And I said to him, just give me another minute. He said, we'll talk later. And I couldn't hold him back anymore. He said, he actually told me, we'll talk later. I thought that I could negotiate with him and tell him that I got this. I've dealt with pushy salespeople before. And it was almost like a scene in a mob movie where he put his hand on my shoulder and just tapped me. It's like, I got this. And I proceeded to embarrass my daughter and make a little scene and teach this guy about what feels awkward to people and like start educating him on reading the cues on people's faces and recognize when it's time to let something go. And I went off on this guy. And Aaliyah's face was turning red, and I tried to get in a sorry while he was talking to her. But that's one of my firefighters. So it just kicks in, and all parts are trying to protect us. They're always trying to protect us. But when management fails, firefighters will move in. Now, there's all different iterations of firefighters. They can be very, very powerful. And you love your parts. You want to love these parts because they're working for you on your behalf. And so when we try to temper them and work with them, you don't want to give them the impression that I don't need you anymore. Because I love my firefighter. I really do. I know that I will never be completely dominated by a pressure-filled situation. I can be put under pressure, but I'm not going to fold, right? And so that's one of the reasons I love my firefighters. Firefighters proactively spring into action when the feared emotions and memories from other parts, especially the more wounded exiles, get activated or threaten to overwhelm. Their strategy, douse or escape the fiery pain. Firefighters act powerfully and automatically to repress the emerging exiles, to release the emotional pressure, and or to get out of danger as quickly as possible. They can overpower managers' efforts to control the system. Okay. So firefighters, you know, when you're dealing with addiction, firefighter. When you're dealing with violence, firefighter. When you're dealing with rage, firefighter. When you're dealing with part of you that doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to negotiate anymore, just needs to get her needs met, like now. Firefighter. Okay? So that's just a quick lay of the land in terms of this dynamic. Can we talk about what you feel and what you think about this now? Questions? Yes.
Well, so it's something like a panic attack would obviously be like a firefighter.
Firefighter.
Because when you said that, you're like, what happens when the manager can't control the exile? And I was like, you have a panic attack. Like that was like literally the first thing that
She told you.
Yeah.
She told you right away. That's what we do. Right. So that's a 5-alarm fire. Like, it's a big problem here. Right? So she's going to flood your system. She, she's tried to hold back and let your management take care of like working out the stress, but the management couldn't do that, and so it tips over. It tips over into firefighter, and either she'll, I don't know what her strategies are to emote. Notice firefighters are located in your lungs, in your tears, in your heart rate, in your respiratory, your lymph glands, your sweat. So they're activated. Firefighters are activated, right? Managers are more located in like joints and organs and your back, your neck. They're carrying and they're carrying burdens, right? So more questions about these parts? Yes, Michael.
So from a yoga,
Yes.
yoga philosophical point of view, I want to ask a question. There's a pinnacle, a pedestal we sometimes put gurus on.
Uh-huh.
I grew up around that, so
Yes.
I'm not even sure I believe in it. But
Right.
just for the sake of conversation, there's this idea that certain people become fully realized gurus. Swami Shivananda, Baba Muktananda, people who are supposed to have attained enlightenment.
Yes.
Whether that's true or not.
Yep.
Maybe there is such a thing, but would you say that if someone does get to that point or close to that point?
Yeah.
Does that mean that they don't have these parts anymore, or are they just so aware of these parts, like the Buddha? Are they so aware of their
Right.
parts that they become so tempered that their parts don't react?
Right. It's a beautiful question, and it is philosophical in nature, but it's a wonderful question because it comes from a part of you, right? A student part who wants to understand, does this end?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the part of Michael that's asking this, it's an inquiry, a studious part, a hopeful part maybe, right? Like, is this real? Can we get to this place, right? So, when you talk about an authentic guru versus a disingenuous guru, and you have one end of the spectrum and another end of the spectrum and everything in between, because it's probably not yes or no. There are probably different levels of awakenedness, right? There are probably people that are very, very elevated, and yet they're still raging alcoholics, right? Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche was a kind of a womanizer and an alcoholic, and also an extremely enlightened monk who brought temples and meditation and books and wisdom to the West, like unbelievably so. So he didn't have the whole pie. He didn't have the whole picture, but he had quite a bit of it, right? And so if he were sitting here, we could locate within him his firefighter that takes over, you know, whether it's around sexuality or around disassociation, drinking. But in many, many other aspects of his life, like this absence of laziness, there's an absence of procrastination. How does he gain it? Like, well, most of us probably have some degree of laziness and procrastination, but when you meet someone who's traveling at a certain pace and productivity, it's shocking, right? Elon Musk has a level of movement across terrain that's shocking in terms of productivity. So the answer is like, well, those parts have been assigned other jobs. So the part of him that was lazy got a new job, got another job. So a realized person, the more a person is realized, the more parts that they've met and the more that they've reassigned parts to other jobs that are more beneficial to the whole system. And probably you're going to miss a few, you know, like in Shogun's case. It's hard to get the whole pie. We find out often that gurus have this flaw. There's a flaw, you know, they did something. It's very incongruous with their guru-ness. And the student body is let down, deeply let down. But it just means that they didn't cover all of the ground. This is a large place. It's not like I have 12 bad habits that I have to work out. It's not like that. It's like the size of the cosmos. So it's a big job figuring out. Now, some people have a lot more managers that are up, and you probably know them. You might know them intimately, right? But people who have lots and lots of management that's up have a very fragile ecosystem, right? You can't do that. Why? There's too many people there. Okay. I don't like when you do that. Could you do that quieter, slower? I don't like something about the way you just did that. I don't like the way you did that. What did I do? Even the way you said that, that's so accusatory. What do you mean, what did I do? You know what you did. And the way you roll your eyes like that, when you're trying to understand me, are you really trying to understand me? Because you just rolled your eyes at me. Do you want this to work or not? I'm trying. You're not trying. You say you're trying, but you're really not trying. So it's a very fragile ecosystem that has a lot of management up that's trying to protect that person, right? But if those managers are up and activated, then you can see how hard it is to be integrated in relationship, which brings out all the managers. That's where I was originally going to go with you today. I was going to talk about how relationships create the need for management, right? But they do it in such a way that's very ninja-like, and you don't know why I do that to you. I'm not sure why I said that to you in that way. Well, I know why you said it, and then that's not why I said it, and then there's two managers. And there's two managers, which means parts to parts. Remember from before, parts to parts? So if it's not self to parts, it only takes one person in a relationship. Here I go. It only takes one person in a relationship to hold ground, to be in self, to be self-led, even while the other person is dominated by a manager. You can do it. It's possible to stay in self. I'm not telling you to be a doormat, but I'm telling you it's possible to hold a state of very, very low reactivity, which doesn't mean escaping, and it doesn't mean shutting down feelings, and it doesn't mean nailing that person on all the places that they're wrong. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means staying in relationship and connection with them, because you're not being triggered. How do you do that? Right? Which is why relationships is like the other yoga, right? That's the other yoga, and I don't know how many pasanas there are in that one, but there's a lot of postures in relationship, right, that we can fall into. But so the exile is the part that I want to for you guys to understand today. If you can, meet your manager and ask her, who are you protecting? Show me the part that you're protecting. Or just ask yourself. Then you meet the exile. Okay? Now, what do we do when we meet the exile? You have this sheet in front of you. The double sheet, healing steps and unburdening. Okay. All right, this is what we do when we meet the exile. We follow steps 1 through 9. There you go. All right. Now, I don't know how far we can get. I don't know how far you can get. I can do some of this by myself. In truth, this is a lot easier to do with another person in front of you. Somebody who knows how to do it, obviously, you're better off, but somebody who understands the lay of this, you can teach them. Or you can look down and they can guide you. This is a guide, you know. You're the one who's doing all the work. They're just helping you, all right? So to get to your manager, you follow this first page, right? All the F's, fears and concerns, find, focus, flesh, feel, befriend. That's what you do to find your manager, okay? And I just want to remind you that you can look for her in your chakras instead of just your anatomy, which will give you more information about her. Next, when you find her and you've updated her, you've worked with her a little bit, you have a little bit of rapport with her, you can begin the process of unburdening. So unburdening is about you, the host, the self, going to where the exile is in time and space. You're going to wherever she is, okay? Now, I could do a demo, or I could just keep this philosophical so you understand the movements of it. What time is it? 3:08. We have till 4? Okay. So 3:08 to 4. Yeah. Why don't we take a 5-minute breather, because this has been a lot of information, and just, you know, stretch or walk around and get some fresh air or a mask break outside or whatever you want to do. And then I'll think about which way we can go from here. Okay? But I want to introduce you to the work of unburdening the exile. Okay? That's where we're going.
Sorry. It's how I activated by. Oh, yeah, it's on us. Really? Yeah, so we have 2 meetings that usually the LMS extra, it's one size basically. This is one meeting that's left. But it's Tuesday is left, and then these are all notes, yeah. Yeah, you can just, yeah. I actually love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's not as, I thought it was gonna be like more.
No, and it's really cool. It's just, I got in it, I put it over the chain top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Well, you know, they say in retail, every time you change the like placement of everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
It energizes, right? And it literally just energizes the whole thing. Oh, I'm gonna have to take pictures of it. Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah. All right, good. Yeah. Oh, yeah, get yours on too. Okay, this is great. Wow. Oh, I photoshopped him. Yeah, he's stained my wall. Oh, look at that. It will, yeah. All right. Oh, you know, it's so good. All right, get in there. I know, you can't get too close. I know. Pretend you're 6 feet apart. Just pretend. Are you smiling? Are you smiling? So good. You and your glory. Okay, you all look amazing. Wow. By the time I post this, I'll be out.
I have who's such a little smiler, like I think so sweet when you smile. If anybody says you can't see a smile with
You
a
can, you totally can. Yes, mine's in.
He's
Right?
so
So,
nice.
she, that word on it, smile.
You're
Yes. Yes. You look, yeah. Yeah, okay. You want to use your phone? Yes.
I got that.
Lovely. Take one?
No, just, you're always so good in it. And you just like, I got it.
Awesome. Make sure. All right, what size, what size do you have?
You're sure you're doing it.
Okay.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
We're so soft. Yeah. Like, I don't do it and I just put this on. They're so light.
With the layering too. Yeah. We wear the ever We often do.
Please, yeah, please post online and, yeah. Okay, now, we can move it on to all of them. So we're on those, let's get the cell for selling. Are you Barney Hunter?
They're so fun too. I love these little good vibes.
Yeah.
Ones.
Oh, yeah, I know, they're the best. That's my painting now.
Did you know that? Oh, really?
That's my painting, that's literally my painting, right there, and it's on the shirt. It's like pretty painting.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a day. All right, 58584, that one?
Yes.
All right, the board page. And this is the time. I have both sides.
I ran into Christine on my first day out.
It's so bizarre. They don't-
Say again?
Christine mentioned I ran into her on my first day.
Oh, okay. She's, yeah. How did you do with your, was it pretty much symptom-free?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
very lucky.
Yeah.
I felt really strong. I was eating a lot of garlic. It's like I was eating garlic like candy.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing.
Not an easy thing to do, but definitely helped.
Yeah.
No S reflux. She's a little kid.
No, I mean, certain things I don't get on well with, but garlic and everything I do fine with. Just, and I did a lot of intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
And I didn't eat until like 2.
Yeah.
A lot of liquids.
Yeah.
But it just, I think it just got wired.
That's great.
It's like, it's, and I'm
Jocelyn's
very
sister got it, and she has asthma,
wearing it like while
so she had to go to the ER.
She did.
Yeah, she was hurt. Her oxygen levels were dropping. One day was pretty
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's hard to, was it serious asthma that she had to begin with, or she just had regular asthma?
I think she just has regular asthma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it takes, huh?
Yeah, has other issues, physical issues, and so COVID was not kind to her at all.
Yeah. Did she make it out of the hospital yet?
Yeah.
Good.
She had a fever still has a fever right now.
Yeah.
No, they did give her antibiotics to set up. She had some water in her lungs.
It's tricky though, so like.
Harrison,
Hey,
in the paradigm that you just showed with the triangle
yes,
and at the bottom with the exile,
yes,
would you say that if everyone has an emotion or a part of them that is in exile,
yes,
then the overwhelming motivation for everyone is really fear that
Yes.
that exiled part will show itself and come out,
Great.
right? So it's
Get
like
it
we're always operating out of fear.
yes,
And it takes different, like the parts that fear shows up in could be anger, could be control, manipulation, whatever, but it's all based on fear, right?
yes. Yeah, fear of, an exiled part is just, it doesn't have the tools and the confidence and the power and the experience. And so it's young and vulnerable.
So would you say that the work is more making friends and understanding the parts so that we can get better kind of control and have them step back when we need to step back? Or would you say the work is to focus more on, because like the book that we just read, Self-Observation, it's kind of like the more attention that you give those parts, the more you're diverting your attention to other more beneficial parts. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to reconcile. Like, how much benefit is there making friends with, getting to know these parts? How much of the work is that versus not, or just recognizing that they are patterns and parts and then just focusing on, being present, and that way maybe those things will fade away. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to repeat your question to the class in 1 minute so that everybody can hear it. It's a good question.
That's a great question, Melissa. Absolutely.
All right, Liz, can you ring the bell?
They're having a very important discussion about housing.
About house paint?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, well, that's important.
So, maybe that's kind of lost in the grass.
We'll all want the same thing. No, there's more. There's like only like the larger stores, but Lisa, she stated that I was like, in before asking. Yeah.
That's the stuff. Sasha, you buy an article of clothing every time you're here.
I know, it's shocking.
I said, you can have too many things. I said,
Totally not.
Ring the bell, that's good.
But if you or I'll let you know if I find one, or just like post it.
Okay, since last time we did a demo online, I'd like to take somebody from the room who's interested in doing a demo in front of everyone and in front of the participants online. And let me explain to you what it is. So you could think of a part of yourself I'll give you a few minutes too. Think of a part of yourself that you'd like to know more about, that you'd like to understand better. A part of yourself that it's a sensation or a behavior or a strong feeling, you know, something worth investigating, something for sure that you're comfortable sharing. And something that you are genuinely, you know, unclear as to how to work with this part, you know, or you don't have a constant success working with it, put it that way. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people here. And I'm just going to use the live people for this. And the online people you can watch, because last time I did a demo, it was with an online person. So I'd like to use a live person for this. So if you pick a number between, if you want to participate, you don't have to do this, obviously. So pick a number between 1 and 10, and actually first think of your part. First think of a part that you might want to investigate. Okay. And then think of a number between 1 and 10. Okay, if anybody would like to put your number in the hat, I have written down the number here between 1 and 10. If anybody wants to play, you can tell me your number. You call out your numbers.
7, 8, 5, 3.
Is that it? Okay, the number's 2, so 3 is our winner. 3, if you could have a seat over here. Okay. So, Melinda, how do you feel about winning?
A little nervous.
Okay. Yeah, so take a moment and check in and just be with that part that's nervous for just a little bit. If everybody could take notes and just track what it is that I'm doing, you will then have a script for unburdening. So the nervous part, is she okay? Yeah, she's okay. Okay. All right. So what was the, is there a part that you'd like to work on today or to understand better? You're
Yeah.
curious about? Yeah.
And it's the part that doesn't finish things. Or doesn't want to start something.
So I'm hearing that there's a
It's
part
twins.
that doesn't finish and that doesn't want to
But
start?
it doesn't want to start.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Can online people hear that? Okay. So if you can direct your attention inward and just take a few slow breaths and see if there's an area in your body or a chakra that this particular part that doesn't want to start, doesn't like to finish, can't finish, where that part might be located in your system.
It's in my throat.
It's in your throat. Okay. All right. So if you could just focus your energy on that part for a moment. How does it represent itself to you?
It's a wall.
It's a wall. Yeah. Okay. Send it a little bit of energy from yourself and see if it notices you.
It sees me.
Yeah. It's easy. Is this a familiar part?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, as you share some space with this part, how do you feel towards this part?
I feel that it. I'd say I get annoyed with it.
Yeah. Anything else?
It blocks me. Like if I want to push, sometimes I want to push it. There's times that I feel it pushes me.
So there's a push and push back relationship with it?
It usually wins.
It usually wins. And how do you feel about it when it wins?
Sad.
Sad. Okay. All right. So ask these two parts that are present, the annoyed part and this part that gets sad. Ask if those two parts could give us a little space and just back up a little bit. Just give us a little space so that we could just be with the wall. Okay. Are they willing to do that?
Just stand close by.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. And so ask the wall what it's concerned about, what its fears are.
That it's not going to be good enough. It's going to be wrong.
Yeah. So the wall is concerned that she might not be good enough and she might be wrong. Okay. And what are the stakes? What's at stake for the wall if she weren't to not start? Like if she started stuff and she finished stuff, what would be at stake?
It's, it won't be accepted,
Hmm,
it'll be made fun of.
okay. So the part might not be accepted and it might be ridiculed? Okay. So hearing this, that this part doesn't want to start stuff or finish stuff because she's afraid that she might not be accepted and she might be ridiculed or made fun of. Does it make sense to you that she wouldn't start stuff? Does it make sense to you, hearing her fears?
I don't think they're founded.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that,
These are unfounded fears.
I think.
Yeah. Okay. So see if you can ask the part of you that's discerning and aware that these might not be founded fears on this part. See if you could ask that part to unblend and just give us a little space and be more like a witness so that you can just be with this part who's afraid to start stuff and can't finish because remember she said she might not be good enough and she might be ridiculed. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the part doing now? The wall.
It's kind of looking at me this way.
Yeah. Okay. Ask if it wouldn't mind unblending. If it could move out in front of you. Just a few feet. Would be open to that.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Ask the wall, this part of you, if it's aware of another part that it might be protecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is,
Okay. Can you see that part? Can you see the other part?
yes.
Yeah. What is the other part that it's trying to protect?
You're not loved.
A part of you that says it's not loved.
You're not, you
Okay. Can you kind of shift like a camera can change its focus? See if you could move the camera from the wall to the other part that feels like she's not loved. See if you could focus on that part.
yeah, it's not a solid image.
Uh-huh. Okay. Is it kind of dreamy in and out?
Yeah, it's kind of like wavy.
Wavy? Yeah.
Kinda
Okay.
cloud-like.
Cloudy? Yeah. Is the wall okay with you changing your focus for a little while? Check in with the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other parts that might have objection to connecting with the part that doesn't feel loved?
There's a part that says it's not, you're not loved, it's you're abandoned.
So there's an abandoned part
That one's louder right now.
that's louder. Is that the same part with a different voice? Just clarifying things, or is it a?
Yeah, I think so.
So she's clarifying that it's not just unloved, it's an abandonment. She feels abandoned. This part. Yeah. Okay. Can you just be with her for a little bit? How's she doing?
She's okay, she's waiting.
She's waiting.
She's
Okay. So
smiling.
she's smiling. Okay. Ask her if she wants a little support, a little help.
Yeah.
She says yeah. Ask her how old she is. She's 5. Maybe 4. Yeah. Well, tell her how old you are and that you're, an older version of her, more mature, and that you can offer some help today. Where is she in time and space? You look around her. You see her. Where is she located?
She's in my house, the house I lived in when I was 4.
Yeah.
She's in the hallway.
Okay. So you can see her in the hallway?
Yeah, she's at the
Yeah.
top of the stairs.
See if she's willing to let you get a little closer. She willing to let you get a little closer? Yeah.
She sat down and made room for me.
She sat down in front of you?
She sat down and made room.
Oh, good, good. So ask her if she feels stuck in time. Yeah. So ask her if there's a place, real or imagined, that she would like to go with you, and maybe set down some of this burden, feeling unloved. See if she can think of a place that she might want to go. Park?
Yeah, there's a park.
Do you know this park?
By the swings.
Park by the
The
swings?
swings, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So see if you could take her little hand, and as you turn to your left, a path appears in front of you. The two of you walk down this path, and at the end of that path is this familiar park. Let me know when you get there.
I'm there.
You there?
Mhm.
Okay. How's she doing?
She's good.
She's good. She's happy, yeah. Okay. And so here in this park, there's flowers, there's trees. There's a little pond over there, and there's swings over here. Ask her where she might want to put down her burden. If there's anything that appeals to her, any of these places interest her in putting down some of this work burden that she's been carrying
By the pond.
by the
Oh,
pond.
by the lake.
By the
There's a
lake?
there.
Yeah.
There's a lake.
Okay, great. Okay, so walk with her over to the lake. Okay. And ask her now, take her shoes or her sandals off and put her little feet in the water. And to allow the burden, the weight of feeling unloved to drain into the lake, to come out of her, drift into the water. The lake is wide and big, it can handle this with ease. And you can facilitate this process for her. You can do it next to her. Let her take her time.
The water's turning color.
The water's turning colors, yeah.
Brown.
Brown, reds, browns again. Yeah, tell her to try to release as much as she can of the burden, feeling unloved, into the water. Help her facilitate that.
It's not as dark.
It's not as dark now.
She's smiling.
She's smiling now,
That.
laughing.
She's done.
And so take her now over to the swing set. And put her on that swing. Start to push her gently through the air. And ask her if there are a few qualities that she would like to take in, to take on, that would help her going forward in her life. Things that she missed out on, and things that she knows that she'll need. Trust. Stability.
Confidence.
Confidence. That's what you like? Yeah. So keep pushing her. And as you push her, notice that a warm breeze in the distance starts to come towards both of you. And in this breeze, as it starts to get closer to the two of you, you can see that it carries the qualities of trust and stability and confidence. And that now the breeze is here and it's moving through her hair and her clothing and it's hitting her skin. And you can feel it too. Keep pushing her back and forth and let that wind imbue her with these qualities of confidence and stability and trust.
Laughing, she has her head back, and her arms out.
Wow, she can swing with no hands, huh?
It's a baby swing.
Wow.
One of those old metal baby
Yeah.
swings with the rock.
Yeah. Ask, if you can, do you remember the wall? See while she's swinging, if you can, turn your attention towards the wall. Bring it into focus and ask it if it just saw what happened. It did.
Got smaller,
Got smaller?
and it's softer, it's not brick.
It's not brick anymore?
It's foam.
It's foam?
It's foamy.
Foamy.
Foam bricks,
Foam bricks.
but not solid.
Right.
Kind of rounded edges.
Uh-huh. Does the wall need anything from you that would help it now that it saw what you just did with the girl?
Doesn't need anything from me.
No.
But it's gonna stay in its softened
Mm-hmm.
state for now.
Okay. Are there any other things that it would like to do for you on your behalf?
It wants to turn into a staircase.
Oh,
It doesn't want to be,
doesn't want to be a wall?
it wants to be a staircase.
Wants to be a staircase. Do you have a place in your life for a staircase? This kind of energy of going up? Yeah. Can you tell it that you'll find places for that? Yeah. How does it feel about that? It's happy about that, yeah. Great. So thank the wall that's now becoming more of a staircase.
Just tell me one step at a time.
One step at a time. Yeah. And turn back to the girl and see how she's doing. She's doing okay? Yeah. Ask her if she wants to stay here in this park or if she wants to come back with you.
She wants to stay in the park.
She wants to stay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything that you'd like to give her before you leave?
A hug.
You want to give her a hug? Yeah. Yeah, why don't you do that? Why don't you give her a big, beautiful hug? Can you tell her that from now on, she will never, ever have to do this alone again?
She said, I know.
She said what?
She says, I know.
She says, I know. Okay. Tell her you'll see her a couple of times over the course of the next week or so, and you're going to check in on her. She knows where to find you, you know where to find her.
She waved.
Yeah. Take a breath, and when you're ready, come back into the room. Can you stay for a minute? Okay. I'm going to open the floor up for questions, if that's okay, in a minute. I just want to check with you. First, what was that like for you?
It was calming.
Calming?
At
Yeah.
first it was anxious.
Yeah.
But now it's very calming and grounding.
Yeah. And what do you notice in your body, or in your mind, or your system?
I feel more open here.
Yeah.
And I feel more rooted. I feel my feet on the floor. And peaceful.
Yeah. Okay. So can we open the floor and the internet up for questions?
Sure.
Okay, people have questions for Melinda about her process, about who she met.
I can say something. Melinda, I love that whole thing, and I think within a lot of us, we all have that little boy or little girl within us that we need to go back and visit. And I really loved a couple of things, but I loved how you started with the wall, and then that actually transpired all the way into that little girl, which you weren't even thinking about before. And then you went back to the wall, and that wall turned into a set of stairs where you can climb and grow. And just how that all intermixed and came together was quite real. And I also loved at the very end where the little girl wanted to stay in the park, and that was her place of peace. And when you said that she'll never have to be there, when you said that she'll never have to be alone again, she realized that she knew that already. And and you're going to come back and visit. And she just waved you up and said, you know, it's time for us to you know, go play on our own. So I loved all of that. So that was just my comment.
Thank you.
Not really a specific question per se.
That's fine. Comments, questions? Anybody else? Comments or questions for Melinda, or for me, or for the process that you just saw? Michael?
By the way, anybody else who wants to jump in, I have a couple of questions, but
Yeah.
I don't wanna take over, so anyone else who wants to jump in, please do. Well, first of all, I was gonna say, witnessing that whole interaction, I thought was just entirely beautiful. Just the whole, from beginning to end, I was really entranced. So that was great. Let's see, my first question was, I noticed that there was maybe just one or two times, or maybe one time that you actually stepped into the scene, Harrison, by inviting the wind to come in with the qualities that were asked for.
Mm-hmm.
So you stepped in as opposed to just leading him.
Mm-hmm.
So do you usually do that at the same point each time, or is that just your intuition telling you that's what was needed at the moment?
Yeah, one of the moments where you want to facilitate someone who's doing an unburdening is after Melinda went to the lake and could feel the burden of feeling unloved draining into the lake. And you get this visual metric of the water changing colors. It's a good metric to tell us that there's movement there. There's movement. She's releasing. What is she releasing? She's releasing programs. She's releasing energy. She's releasing stagnation. She's releasing the burden of feeling unloved. And after she's done with that, then we offer her. We offer her tools that she missed out on as a young person. Things that she knows that she needed, that she didn't get. Things that she knows she's going to need in her future. And the kid told us that she wants trust, stability, and confidence. That's what the kid told us. And so those qualities can come from a number of places, but inside of the scene that Melinda was in, I just, I'm using my own creativity to give her access to that which she craves, that which she desires, right? So that can come through I usually use the elements. I use wind and fire and water. I use wood and trees and air, because it's accessible and organic and all around us. And the body seems to be very, very unguarded and welcomes the qualities when it comes through the elements. But I wouldn't be afraid, like if Melinda ran into an obstacle there, I wouldn't be afraid to call upon, a favorite aunt or uncle or a grandfather or a grandmother that may have passed, that she had a special relationship with, a special animal that can come and help. I would use all sorts of support mechanisms. But this kid knew what she wanted and was able to receive it. Yeah.
I have two more questions if we have time, but does anyone else want to ask something?
I have a question.
Yeah.
This script was a little bit more in-depth and lengthier than what we did last time when we were getting to know the manager.
Yes.
But then we reintroduced the manager. So would you do this like all in one session with someone, or would you identify the manager and then like the second time you meet with them, get into what the manager is protecting, or is
Yeah.
it just all?
Yeah. Sometimes, if a person really knows their parts and they show up and they know what they want to work on, that's one thing.
Mhm.
But it's fairly compressed to meet a manager, move to the exile, and then unburden the exile all in one sitting.
Okay,
But it can be done, as you just saw.
sure.
And it depends on the inner navigability of the person that you're working with. Melinda has has a comfort level and an awareness, and you notice that her parts were working elegantly with her. And so you can move very quickly sometimes with one person. Another person you might meet the manager, the wall, that's it, the wall. That's who we're gonna meet today. And that's as far as you can get. They could blend so fully with the wall that they don't even see the wall out there. They just feel like a wall somewhere inside of me. And they can't even unblend. So in that case, what do we work on? We just work on rapport, right? Because that's the most important thing for a person, know thyself. Know your parts that are blocking you, in her case, from finishing stuff, okay? And you can see the trailhead. It's a trailhead. The wall was a trailhead that led us to unloved, right? It's not the wall. The wall is protecting the unlovable part. And it had very specific reasons that it gave us, remember? It gave us very specific reasons why. It might fail, it might be criticized, it might get it wrong. And so it makes sense that, well, where's that coming from? I'm trying to protect another part. Oh, who's that? Oh, the unloved part. Oh, who's she? Oh, here she comes. How old is she? She's 4. She's 4. She's standing at my house at the top of the stairs. Here she is. You can see, wow, like procrastination and lack of follow through. I just need to work harder. No, that would have worked by now. You're not a lazy woman. Yeah, it's not about that. Right? This is a more complex combination lock. And you can see there's more involved here. Okay. You have another question? Or?
Yeah, I have a million questions. So
Yeah.
I'll just ask one more. When the exile part, which was being unloved, which was feeling very burdened, let go of burden,
Yes.
you then started referring to the part not so much as a part, but as she and her. So, language-wise, really, you were just getting to Melinda, right? That's how I interpreted it, right? Like the 4-year-old girl that's no longer burdened and no longer unloved is really just her.
Sort of. It's always Melinda, because Melinda is the self, the capital S. The self is the quality of all those, creative, connected, courageous. But when the self is burdened, by an exile, the self loses all of its qualities, all of its resources when it's burdened, right? And so the self becomes hijacked by the exile. So the exile, if she was burdened directly by the exile and only by the exile, she would feel deeply unloved. She probably might not even come up here today. She might have not even signed up for Michael and Liz's workshop. She might not have had that capacity. But that part was exiled. That part is exiled. And instead, what we have is the wall, which is just procrastination and lack of follow-through. So she's free as a woman to participate in something as courageous as this, but she can't finish stuff. She can't start stuff because of that protector part. Doesn't want to be her to be exposed, right? So when you're still dealing with aspects of the self that are not their jobs, but they are energies within her. So you still want to address those energies as separate energies, because you never want to tell her that she is the wall. We did a lot of work to get her to unblend from the wall. We don't want her to become the girl, 4-year-old. 4-year-old is a part of her, it's not her. Okay? So for these parts to get reassigned for the wall, right, to become the staircase, one step at a time. I like that. And the girl, from moving from unloved to confidence, stability, and trust. Now, that energy is free to do different work in Melinda's life. You just freed up a significant amount of energy. And I will tell you this, you're going to feel different, you know, in the next couple of days. And you can check in. Try not to forget about this. Try to let this live, right? Try to let this live inside of you. And I asked you if you could spend time with that kid. And what I mean by that is journaling, just talking to her. You know, do you have any kids?
Yeah, they're grown.
How old? You have 2 kids, 3 kids?
2.
Now you have 3. Okay, now you have 3. Okay, this kid needs your love as much as the other 2 kids. Michael?
People look like they might need to leave. If you need to say goodbye, just say goodbye. I don't know if you're just getting ready because we need to be somewhere. But I had a question from Melinda, a question for you, Harrison.
Okay.
Real quick. Melinda, so now that you've identified, if you've named these qualities that you would like to take on, trust, stability, and confidence, now that you've named it and put it out there for yourself, would you say that there's, like, would you use that, would you not use that? Do you have a support system, like a relationship, a person in your life, or more that would support that, that would help to hold that space for it?
You have a context to try this out in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel open enough, like trusting enough in that
Yeah.
relationship to put it out there?
Yeah, because I think that what was holding me back was me, that it's not there. Like, all of that is there. Intellectually, I know all of that is there.
Yeah.
So what was holding me back was my fear of trusting.
Part of you, a very young part of you that didn't have that kind of confidence because she didn't feel loved. So you could start to take some emotional risks with her and see how she does. Because she has these 3 qualities now. You could remind her about these 3 qualities. You know, you could play Scrabble. You could talk about these big words, see if she even understands these big words that she really wants. You know, it's a 5-year-old. Go ahead.
Lastly, just remind the language you were using during the conversation. A lot of the language reminded me of what I would imagine someone might put out during a hypnosis session.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered, I'm just curious, have you ever done this with someone under hypnosis or seen it done with someone under hypnosis?
No, this is an alternate reality. No, it is a like, you know, you felt like you went somewhere else, right? Right. So it's a trance of sort. She's definitely not in the room with us entirely anymore. She was in a house on the staircase, and then she was at a park, and her capacity to do that, it is her willingness, you know, to move through time and space. And so essentially it is a form of a kind of hypnosis, but it's more like a self invitation into an alternate reality where you can start to free parts of yourself that are stuck in time. Yeah. Neuro-linguistic programming.
You've never seen this script done with someone under hypnosis then?
No.
Just curious.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if we can agree that whatever parts we know exist are not our true selves,
Yes.
then why is it so beneficial to know them all? Because they're all going to replace themselves with other parts over our life. So like, are we doing more work then to get to know all of the parts that we're going to be, even though we know that our true self isn't really any of them?
That's a great question. And I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you a question from before, didn't I? Yes. So what is the benefit of getting to know all these parts, even because, especially because we know that they're not us and that we're going to accept them anyway as not ourselves? Because we don't have control over all the aspects of our life, and our lives are actually being manipulated by invisible forces within us that are operating out of a place of fear or unconsciousness or old programs, and they're directing our current present life, 2021, as if it's 1972, 1976, 1964, as if there are energetically frozen aspects of our thinking that are still quite able to, pause, direct, or block a full-grown woman from being able to finish something that she wants to do. And this is the reason why this level of investigation pays off and is worthy, because even though these parts are not us, they have access to the controls. They're in the front panel of the portal. They're at the front seat. And if you want to gain more, control and balance over aspects of yourself that are seemingly operating outside of your agency, then this is one of the reasons to do some of this work. Yeah. Does that answer that?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Last question, comment? Last questions?
Second question.
Yes.
Is it resulted in your throat chakra?
The wall.
And my question is, were you not able to be heard as a child, or do you think like when you spoke it wasn't heard at all?
There was a lot I held back. I think I suppressed a lot. There was a lot that wasn't said.
Hmm.
Like things that were just never said.
Right, the unsaid.
And I'm talking about it.
All right, thanks, Melinda, for playing along with us and doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, extend some thanks to Melinda. That's courageous and very transparent, to come up and do that kind of work publicly. And I appreciate it also very much. So, this kind of demo, it hopefully is helpful to you to understand what's possible, first of all, and where to go now that you meet your managers. Don't stop at your managers. Your managers lead to your exiles. Your exiles, once unburdened, free up your managers. And then you become more free as a person. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Harrison.
Oh,
That
you're
was
welcome.
great.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome. Nice to spend time with you guys.
You too.
Yes,
All right.
hopefully I can be there live next time.
Okay. All right. Have a great day, both of you.
You as well. Thanks again.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, thank you, class.
Bye.
How far do you have to travel on your motorcycle?
Just up the street.
Not nice.
Yeah. Well, the road's wet. I don't know if the roads are wet.
Raining down there.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah. It
Oh,
was like a light up,
Really?
What do you do then?
Oh.
yeah, you just go really slow and you don't take the turns too hard.
And they hit you like
Yeah,
so hard.
yeah. Yeah. Have you ridden before?
Yeah, my boyfriend has a Harley Davidson.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's no fun getting stuck in the rain.
No, no, no.
They sting, they sting.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you again so much for being here.
Oh.
Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Okay, you're welcome.
Bye.
Thanks, Kelly. Thank you. Thanks.
Good
Good to see you.
Great weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really nice year.
Yeah, good. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right, yeah, it's better. I was avoiding the wisdom Wednesday, so we just didn't go like, too much time without seeing you. Thank you, everyone, beautiful. That was really beautiful. Wow. Wow. How you feel?
Good. Yeah. Life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you an artist? Draw it.
Yeah. I just felt like they both rounded in my hand at the same time, and yeah, so, yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Wow. Which I'm scrambling right now, like, wait, let me teach you. I'll figure it out. I'll pull something out, yeah. Bye. Come on, kisses, bye. I know, I can't even Okay, that's a great idea. Sure, we have that around too. Oh, you know what? I have these really big brushes in the shed. Yeah, actually, that would be really nice. All right, so yeah. All right. Getting my acts together here. With my class. Let's see. What I'm planning to teach. Oh, that's right. Like, my just mind just do the floor for me, please. Please.
Yeah, we should multitask and throw around ideas while making the ceiling.
Okay, we have to do it. We need to. And I was looking at it yesterday too, and I was like, I just gotta listen to her.
Yeah, like,
It will change the whole thing. I think we're gonna do it. I'm gonna edit to my, I have manifestation. this
I
week.
would do this, see, when I painted my ceiling, it was before anything went in.
Did I give you, hold on, did I give you a marker? Like a blue raspberry color marker?
Yeah, that's good idea.
And it's a pink sprayer.
Yeah. Yes. It's gonna soak it up.
You didn't think so?
Right. I'm thinking this color.
You know what I was thinking?
That's your dark.
All right, getting all that.
Yeah, so it's funny, because I don't I know it does, and it's like, I don't usually, but I'm like, I have to. Yeah. Yes. I listen, by the way.
Not the actual foam brushes that you do with walls, but there's like adopting that rollers into the wall for like the ingredients rollers, there are more.
Seeing more, to me, you just see more.
It's more of a service of the word.
No, but I think I know what you're talking about, yes, it's more, is it like a, not a foam, but I think I know what you mean.
Maybe you would use them more with like an epoxy or something to go over the,
Okay. Like something that's like more porous or more,
well, see, it's more, so it's not gonna go into absorb, so like take. I think, maybe more of that, those holders, stays on it.
yeah, okay.
It takes a lot. I know it's okay though, like even when I did end up with a lot of white stuff on it.
Yeah,
It was the white money.
yeah.
But it's okay, it almost looks like stars.
That's what I think is gonna happen to this one, it's gonna want to keep some form of texture because it's really, I'm staring at this,
It's exactly that.
it's so like porous, it is, and texture and ripping and falling apart. I think my neighbor should be her, I think it used to be made. And I don't want to make me paint it that way. Because it's expensive, it's gonna be a lot, because you know, it's not how it's square feet.
The tiles are shot. My landlord. There was we were gonna barbershop there. Utilize it.
Yeah, probably, if they'll sell that better, they'll probably get more money for it maybe one day, because it'll look better. That's every time I look up on my, on the bar, I'm just like, this is, wait, hold on, what was it? Wait, hold on. Wait, oh shit, I'm trying to see, I forgot which group I'm listening to. Which group was it? Exactly, sorry, who is it? Wait, okay. Hold on. How did I not know what to do? Yeah, okay, I'm back. So it had been empty? Like,
Yeah, that's reason empty for a long time.
right,
Years.
okay.
And somebody moved in there when the months.
Wow. See, that's what will happen, and maybe that, but that's what I want him to actually pay for it. Because I want to tell him, like, I'm improving your space. And this is gonna help me get more clientele maybe. Just look at my question. And you know what I forgot? I totally forget something about how like students ended up into the shower. I was like, peek, 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 and I'm like, whoops. All right, so we have to work on, we'll go and shopping. Yeah, this is true. Okay, I'm excited. I'm glad we both have this deal. Yeah, because yesterday I was like, come on, what does he have to do this? This is like really awful.
That's not like this one.
But we can, yes. And we need to get like some peace to like help out. Maybe like, I think it needs to be like, should be like a whole, we'll go shopping, get it all done. Like, we'll organize it, but then I think the day I was like, the more that like, okay, you three do this quadrant, you three this, you know what I mean? Right? Everybody needs to do that. I feel like that. Right, that's what I feel. Yeah, I think so. I feel like it needs it, that space, so that's great for that space, that's really strong. It is, it just is. I can't, like, it is what it is. And I just was like, what do you need, and I felt like I was like, I need to do that. I've been tired, you know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, I guess it's okay. Six, no, literally 4. Yeah. Yeah, yes. Yeah.
I had found first. I just wanted to have, I found the first. I've never looked at that. Because I was looking for something that I didn't see.
Oh, wow.
In the area.
Isn't that
I
interesting?
couldn't find what I needed, so I was like, well, I'm just. So.
And that's interesting, and then now I'm like, oh my God, it's so much doable, you have no idea, it's so hard. We'll get there, Dad. You know, well, you know, I'm sure it is. Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard, I think, yeah. They said something like, you told me this, like 85%. I did. So you did.
I don't know how much, I mean, I didn't.
Right, sometimes you do that. That's so wild. Yeah, but you know, I have to, like, I'm trying to know what people need, like, it's like, what do they need? I think they just need attention right now, I know it sounds funny, but like, I just been tired emotionally, and like, it was a whole year holding this up, like, it got done now. But now I feel like, I'm like, really trying to connect to like, my vision, my energy with that, because I know like, how I built it, because I built it from scratch. It was just like, love, like, hey, like, and I need to actually go to the grassroots a little bit again. But now the beautiful thing is, I'm not a I literally do it myself. I have so many teachers, so many supporters now, so like, now it's like, how do I motivate everyone to help me keep us going strong, right? Like what, it really was revealed to me the other night, this was because I was seeing a rock outside. I woke up, I couldn't sleep, and I was like, oh my God, I get this. I sat out under the moon, freezing cold, no underwear, stupid. And I just sat there and I was like, I am not, I was like, I'm not moving until you answer me. Nothing for half an hour, silence. And then gratitude came out, and what was so beautiful about it was I started literally naming all of you, like naming and then hit me. Like that's the key. It's the community. It doesn't. I'm trying too much to make it my own. And the grassroots is bigger now. It's not just me like going door to door. You know what I mean? Yeah. So pretty good to know. Did you? Yeah, it's hard.
You know, I would like found people who was running around as part of the partner. My partner, I didn't do it myself. And so the kids are always like, well, I'm gonna do it. And, but okay, I have this person that wants to be my partner.
Yeah.
But it's not the person that wants to put this one partner. Like, I need another like me.
Right.
Literally.
No, I need another me.
Yes.
That's gonna come in and bust it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, I don't need you who wants to like do 2 classes a week and call it sweat equity.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
not, no.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because that's hard in itself. Like, yeah. When you own and you notice, it's very hard to find anyone, even my best workers, usually, you know, like yesterday when Larissa was teaching and fires are exploding here in Gardner, I couldn't find anyone to help me. And it's okay, like I get it, I accept it, it's not their baby.
Right.
Yeah. And I can't expect it to be their baby.
You never leave.
I never leave it, and I'm happy and I love it, you know, that's other things to do this, but I like definitely am like, yeah, right?
Yeah,
It's hard.
What's your?
I opened a studio in the Grange office for 2 months before I was supposed to one. Yeah, and. It's my year! This is my year! Don't stop. Definitely not. Definitely not. And you know, I just became so overwhelming. I am starting to feel resentful about this. I don't want to feel resentful about yoga. I want to feel resentful about it. And, you know, seeing with my family, kids, and I can't. And then, like, I had all of my stuff moved out of that studio by March 1st of 2020. And then everything went on lockdown. And I was like, that was when my lease was up March 1st. And I was this close to resigning. I'm like, I gotta give it another year at least. I gotta give it another year. And they're like, no, we don't. I don't know what happened here. I was like, with that term. I'm like, no, it's not happening now. and then I keep it all, I put everything out there. Yeah. What if I sign that lease?
I get it. No, I know.
Or it's stuck?
I know two hairdressers.
Yeah.
One didn't sign
Yes.
the lease and one did. And what a difference.
But it went to,
One signed the lease just before COVID. The other one didn't.
so the one who signed right before COVID got out of it, and the one who didn't,
The one who didn't sign it got out of it. The one who signed the lease got stuck with the payments. all
Yeah.
through COVID.
it's sad.
So, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
Close
That's
call.
for sure.
Yeah, it's so sad, it's just so sad.
I feel like it was too, like, it was just like, seriously, we already had something, you know what I mean? It's-
I mean, I had some, yeah, and what happened, I mean, yeah, I mean,
But I mean, now you're starting to, you know, I think we can use it.
I missed some, intense dream about it last night. I haven't seen it in a while. Saw a couple nights, talked a little bit. At some point, I want to talk to you about my relationship, mind blowing stuff that is insane with Jocelyn, living with her for about 10 days, we're living in a little one bedroom. Yeah, things are good, not as good as I thought they were.
Oh, big time,
Judgment.
yes,
And
judgment,
where am I?
girl, judgment. You should have seen the devil make up my goodness, that we were
Hey, how are you? Good, how are you? Have like flaws in it, right?
Yeah.
Gina, ready to stand here, so you hand me a mask?
Oh, yeah, you wanted that. Come on, girl, holy gosh, Sasha, this is Gina, one of my, hi, Mary, one of my best friends, Heather. All right, Gina, let's do it.
I feel like this is just a special grace. There's like a freezer. For it here.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but yeah, sure.
Not ask, and handstands always real safe, but other weight bearing stuff, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real stuff.
Well, is that the one that opens up? Yeah. They are, yeah.
It's actually that one, yes.
She's wearing
Like,
it.
they're like, it's wearing a lot too, and it's not, I thought it would be enormous.
It's not, I got that one.
I like, actually like.
But it's all really get a lot out of it.
Okay, yeah, let me take a look at this, super comfortable.
Bill said it was, yeah, I spoke, both times he was doing it, I
It's
spoke.
almost like branding for opening comments, you know, what you're gonna get or something.
Yeah.
The Big Mac is
Yes.
back in
Right.
Brazil, the Big Mac here.
It's similar. A lot of stuff, said a little bit like, you know, out there, and excited, but he said, but God said the second one was
From every single
I don't
person.
know, it's the hot thing, I mean, I grew up in, I can't see that in real life, but like, oh my gosh, yeah, if you ever see it in Imagine, that's so cute on the That's really cute. Wow, I just put them out, I really don't. Wait, let me just. Let's invite you for a statement session, meditation series for art, for this important, so take care of this kind of, let's see if we can get this series is described, and stuff like that. Spread the word. No, it's kind of funny, so oh my god, hi, thank you, well, don't give me, all right, for class in the shirt, okay, thank you. Seems fair. All right, we're gonna, hi, no, it's okay, it's nobody's fault, hi. Because, can you help us with hi, you're here.
Yeah, really good.
Okay, good. How are you? How's everyone's butt?
Great.
You guys know that's great.
board has to be left.
But the good news is you won't be known.
That was in the hall. I'm like, oh, yeah, oh, what's my doing? Okay.
How does this work? How do I set up?
I think we're gonna set up facing, towards each other tonight. That's what I think we're gonna go with. We're gonna go with that setup. Take it all the way to the front. So you can come up as close as you want. Okay, I need help with this. You ready? Hold this if you can from the back. This let's see, left, right. Okay, so wait. Lefty loosey. Oh, okay, let's not chat with you now. Okay, and yes. Okay, cool. I'm gonna have to close that. That goes up front. Beautiful, thank you so much. Thanks, Michael.
He's quiet in his place. Yeah.
So cute. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Cool. Oh, I don't know. You have to ask Keith. I don't know. Yes. Where do they put in?